I see they pulled the distractions out on y'all heavy today, super heavy. A lot going on in Congress, FCC, and whatnot. We're going to talk about it all. The Grift Report starts right now.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are, some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
And I
that's
was
good.
just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus. They pulled out all the stops today, man. They pulled Anonymous out from the woodwork. IDF arrest a Hamas leader. Usher gay rumors. Just pulled everything out of the woodwork. Now, if you watched yesterday's show, I told you today was going to be full of distractions. Hotep's been told you.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
I just finished up a 45-minute segment with Alex Jones over on his channel. Had a fabulous time. Talked CBDCs, one world government, the huge. And, hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you didn't catch that, go watch that. So shout out to Alex Jones. I appreciate the look.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
So yeah, we got a lot to discuss today. We're going to talk about your girl, Namarata, or whatever her name is. I think y'all call her Nikki Haley. I'm going to call her from now on. Her name's Namarata. Rudy, thank you for the super chat. He said, fire appearance on InfoWars. HJ, damn, I was losing it with all the big brain real talk. Salute to you, Hotep and Bill. Yo, thank you, Rudy. Gotta do that for the people, man. Gotta do that for the people. Rumble working good? Okay, looks like Rumble's working good. Shout out to K over there, Haram Life. Midwest Sep. What up, man? What up, my good people? I had a funny comment coming on my YouTube today. Wait, first of all, I didn't even send my promo tweet out because I was so busy with Alex Jones. I didn't even get a chance to prep that. So I'll talk about this tweet in the meantime. Let's go here. I got to post my Rumble link and then a YouTube link. So somebody in the chat and also on Instagram did the same thing. And I knew this was going to happen because my video, it wasn't as thorough as it could have been. And I completely understand that. However, I thought it was thorough enough for the intellectual. Okay. For the intellectual, the video was thorough enough, right? For the hoi polloi, you gotta walk them by the hand through what's going on, right? And in 60 seconds, it's really hard to do in my new reel. So I have a new reel. It went out on all the platforms. You guys can go check that out. Blah, 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 blah. Make the hearts dance on this post. Let me move this over here and you guys can actually watch me as I do this. So it's not so boring as I'm typing this. Can you see that? Hold on. You guys can see that, right? All right, good. So they're like, oh, because I was talking about the FCC. Now, if you watch my channel, we already covered the FCC thing yesterday. So you got yesterday's news today. And they're like, can you explain your line of thinking? And the fact of the matter is it's called they invoke the term discrimination, digital discrimination. And I told you the name of the document. So if you're interested, you can go read it. Right. I guess people wanted me to read the whole document for them, but you could also just watch the show. And on the show, we discussed it and I showed you what to look for in the document. Or you could just Google it and you'll see a bunch of stories talking about how the FCC, just like look. And so somebody in the comments in my YouTube was like, where are the sources? And I'm like, in the clip. The thing is, like, people, when they say sources, I'm like, what do you want, a source from Fox News or something? I'm showing you the name of the actual bill proposed by the FCC. I'm not going to any third party. I'm going right to the horse's mouth so you can see that they want to control the internet. It's right there in their own document. You just got to be able to read. So for people who don't like to read, well, it's not going to be as fun for you. So let's go here. I'm going to say Nimarata goes full commie. What else are we talking about today on the show? Oh, yeah. Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens beef continued. Right? Got to talk about that. All right. What else are we talking about today? What else we got here? Basel 3. Basel 3 Endgame. Nobody cares about this. It's just kind of like too intellectual, I guess. We got IMF documents to cover. I'm going to pull up an IMF document later. What else did we have to cover? That's pretty much it. I got some other stuff in the bag. We'll get to that in just a moment. Where's the bank emoji? Give me the bank emoji. Boom. All right. So promo tweet is going out. Then we can start the show. There we go. So if you want big brain talk, big brain conversation, I want you to join our Telegram group. It's free. Hit that link in the description box below. Shout out to Syscoin. Lots of great announcements. All of my crypto announcements and crypto freedom and financial freedom discussions will happen there. I'm working on a full dissertation on the CBDC, and I will publish that on my locals, hotepjesus.locals.com. You have to give me some time because when I do it, I want it to be full, complete, thorough. But I don't want it to be too long, and I don't want it to be too complicated. So it'll be a working document, but I'll post that on my locals. Also on locals is the best place to communicate with me. You ask me questions there. I'm obligated to respond to you and give you a full, thorough, and complete response. So if you want communication with me, you want full contact with me, join my locals, hotepjesus.locals.com. As you already know, support Men of Order. You see the brain support, 30% off coupon code is right there. Go hit that. QR code works. Link in the description box works. Grift Report as a coupon code works. All discounts are applied at checkout. What is the brain support pill? Well, it's exactly what it says it is. It's going to help neurogenesis. So neurogenesis is when your neurons are created. Some people are walking around this earth and the neurons just aren't firing. The synapses just aren't synapsing. The brain needs some support, and that's what we provide. This is something that I wanted to do because I've been described as an intellectual, and I thought this was pretty on brand with me. But we have more products coming. If you are a member, you will get exclusive discounts to the next product we're releasing. Now, only the people in my locals know the next product we're releasing. And my YouTube supporters, my YouTube members know the next product that we're unleashing. I put out a survey and they chose the next product. So when it comes to peak male performance, menoforder.com is the place to be. We're going to roll out great new products over the next coming months. And the next one will be here in 30 days or left. And if you are a member, you will have an exclusive discount and you will have first dibs to that product. Mostly because we'll create a bundle package for you. So more on that front coming soon. With that being said, let's talk about your homegirl, Nimarata. Nimarata. Now, she wants to, let's have her say it. Let's not mince words or misquote anybody. Let's hear what she has to say straight from the horse's mouth. Let's go to the clip.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms.
Now, we talked about this on Alex Jones today. It's very dangerous for a social media company to disclose their algorithm to anybody because whoever has the algorithm will be able to game it. So if you show the government the algorithm, guess who's going to be able to game the algorithm? The government. The same government that we saw during the Twitter leaks the Tweety links, where we saw massive governmental influence on the social media platform of Twitter, now known as X. So that's the first part of this that I just want to get out the way, because there's dangers in this, but that's the first danger. Government knowing social media algorithms so they can be exploited. Now, what else is happening here? Well, that's a tremendous precedent to be set. What if a private citizen operates a private corporation? Does this mean now that the government has the ability to snoop on your communications, to snoop on how you do business? Isn't that the precedent we're setting here? Like, let's remove the algorithms and all the tech stuff from the conversation completely. What are you really saying here? That the government can come and ask you for how you do business? You can no longer keep trade secrets? This is straight out of 1984. This is not straight out of 1984. A business can't even have trade secrets without the government knowing what they are. What is wrong with Nimarata? What is wrong with her?
Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing. The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get...
What about the Israeli bots? She's clever in her wording, right? Like who she targets. So she's speaking to the pain points.
And by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots.
Russian, right? That's for all the, let's call them blue chip Republicans or establishment Republicans or neocons.
The Iranian bots.
Iranian, again, neocons.
And the Chinese bots.
Again, neocons, because only neocons believe in these people being some sort of foreign enemy. Russia, Iran, and China. I mean, these are the things that send a tingle up a white man's spine if he's a red white. You mention these three countries and they just start shaking and shit. You know what I'm saying? So she knows what she's doing. She knows who she's targeting with this rhetoric. Meanwhile, she's doing that and ignoring all the massive surveillance that could come about because of this.
And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what.
And then they're trying to say civility, right? That's always the thing. Now, is she right? Of course, there's going to be some major civility. Absolutely. I do agree with that. But civility needs to come through culture. It needs to come through the maturation of humanity, the maturation of the American society. It needs to come through the church. It needs to come through the media. It needs to come through the influencers. It doesn't need to come through government legislation. Because then what you do is you send all the hate speech to underground platforms, right? Or if we can even call it hate speech, but, speech that they don't like. It'll just go to another platform. I mean, that's all you're going to do. They're just going to go to 4chan and say it. They won't say it on Twitter. So, really what this is, it's just a sanitizing of minds to where you're afraid to speak what you want to speak. And that comes straight out of Stalinist Russia. You better not say the wrong thing because it could affect you. And I cover this on InfoWars. And we're always going to tie this stuff back into the CBDC because that's what a lot of this stuff is tied to. And we know we have a digital ID system. I'll show it on your screen right here, what's happening in the EU. Again, Alex and I covered this. I'll bring it up on your screen right now. So, hold on. All right, here we go. So European digital ID system, right? And it says right here, 7 days ago, European digital identity, right? And they reached a provisional agreement on EID. So EU has already agreed to the digital ID. But again, coming back to what I was talking about before, right here, under the new law, member states will offer citizens and businesses digital wallets. Ladies and gentlemen, other than your ID, what goes inside a wallet? Can anybody tell me in the chat what goes inside your wallet other than your ID? Now let's see if they mention it here. Oh, I see they did mention it. Okay, they did sort of mention it. So, the digital ID, under the new law, member states will offer citizens and businesses digital wallets that will be able to link their national digital identities with proof of other personal attributes. Okay, so they just mentioned the bank account as proof of other personal attributes, right? And it says right here, citizens will be able to prove their identity and share electronic documents from their digital wallets with the click of a button on their mobile phone. Now, many of us currently use that at the airport. We have a wallet app on the iPhone, which carries our credit cards and it carries our boarding passes, et cetera, et cetera. So we're already trained to use some of this technology, right? But they mentioned digital wallets here, right? However, what else goes in wallet? Let's check on the chat. See, the chat says it. Money. Ding, 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 ding. Tell him what he's won. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Money. So the money is what's going to go or be tied to the digital ID, right? So that's why all this Nikki Haley stuff comes full circle. Everything's going to bring you back to me in CBDC. It's going to bring you right back to me in CBDC, okay? Nobody's going to tell you it till you come to the show.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
You know what I'm saying? And then you'll be informed. So Nimarata here wants to connect everybody to their ID on social media. So when you create this linkage between social media and digital ID is linked to a wallet, what you say on social media can and will be used against your money. We're going to talk about the money in a little bit. We have a new IMF document that was published yesterday. I made some highlights and went through it this morning. It's about 22 pages. Didn't take long at all. And I'll show you two IMF things that were published today. One of them's kind of funny. The other one, again, I'll show you in just a moment here. So this is what Nimarata wants, right? And again, under the guise of anti-Semitism, right? So where people go, oh, I don't like anti-Semitism. I don't like, racism. We have to do something about this. As the great Thomas Sowell said, there are no solutions, there are only trade-offs, right? So the trade-off is, let's get rid of the speech you don't like, but also take away your freedoms. So when you get a more pleasant society, you get a less free society. At least online. Still not convinced that it'll be more pleasant. I think the biggest issue with not allowing people to be anonymous are things like WikiLeaks, like what happened to Julian Assange, things like what happened to Eric Snowden. If people are sitting on information that others are not privy to, they could face legal repercussions. Being anonymous allows them to sidestep that. The public needs to know the truth. The public should know the truth. And having anonymous or anonymity allows information to flow more freely. Also, it allows opinions to flow more freely. And although many opinions are shit, there are many great anonymous opinions. We have people in Hotep Nation who operate online anonymously, mostly because they don't want their coworkers knowing what they're saying online. They fear not being canceled by their coworkers. They just fear creating a workplace that is not as pleasant. It's sort of, the boat has been rocked. You know how these liberals are. They find out you voted for Trump, and now they come into work the next day and they got a chip on their shoulder. It's like, now we can't even get work done, right? And now you're making my life harder. So some people have to mitigate these risks, which I totally understand. And mostly because these people don't know how to manage their emotions. It's just what it comes down to. Strong Dad in the chat. Strong Dad is in charge of physical fitness in Hotepistan. There will be no fat people in Hotepistan. Everybody will be in shape. All men will look like gods in Hotepistan, thanks to Strong Dad and his strong regiment. That's enough of Nimarata. I'm going to get her off my screen. I'm tired of looking at her face. You know, she tries to walk around like she's a white woman. She's not a white woman. Her name's Nimarata. Okay? You want people attached to their ID. Why don't you call yourself Nimarata? Would you have gotten elected if your name was Nimarata? Or did you switch it to Nikki? Where'd you get Nikki from? Nikki is short for Nicole. Your name is Nimarata. So you out here fronting, Nimarata. Fronting and stunting. Let's go to Candace and Ben Shapiro. I really wish we had producers for this show, because this conversation has evolved surrounding Candace Owens. So the day before yesterday, we were talking about the Candace Owens fallout. Or was it yesterday? We were talking about the Candace Owens fallout. And I basically expressed that, the day before yesterday, I expressed that Candace Owens, if she departed from Daily Wire, could not go on her own. She would have to team up with somebody. It's probably what makes the most sense for her, because creating the infrastructure and all of that stuff would just be too much of a daunting task, right? I mean, she could start her own podcast, but it wouldn't be as big as if she partnered with a Blaze or something like that. Then Goldstein calls in and he goes, you know what? You're right. You know who I could see her collabing with? And I'm like, who? And he says, Tucker Carlson. The very next day, or I'm sorry, later that night, because it's 9:48 p.m., November 14, 2023, Candace Owens says, tomorrow I'll be sitting down and chat exclusively with Tucker Carlson. What an honor. Now, there are reports that Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro have unfollowed each other. All right, Gateway Pundit here says Daily Wire's anti-Trumper Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens reportedly unfollow each other on Twitter after Shapiro publicly trashes her over faux sophistication on Israel. Are we about to see a collaboration between Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens? And I also ask you, was this created? Was this manufactured? Is her beef with Ben Shapiro manufactured to make her look like the bad girl? Like Tucker to Fox? Are we seeing a reestablishment of right-wing media? Are we seeing controlled opposition? Legacy media is dying. People don't want to, the right is becoming bifurcated, divided on the issue of Israel, Palestine, divided on the issue of Ukraine. So how do you capitalize on that? You got one side that says, hey, America first, and another side that says Israel first. How do you capitalize on that? When you divide and conquer. So let's boot Tucker from Fox. Now he looks like the bad guy. He's been acting like the bad guy too, saying things you never thought a public figure would say, exposing the lizard men. And now we have Candace Owens with a little rift between her and Daily Wire, or Ben Shapiro. What if she has been manufactured to look like a bad girl? Who knows what she says on Tucker today? But we could see a new bad boys of the right, or bad girls. The dark horse of the right, right? The, dare I say, alt-right of the right. The alt-right. That's what could be coming. where all of the people who are spewing America first rhetoric team up. As far as businesses, money is concerned, this is a great move for Candace and Tucker. This is an absolutely brilliant move for them to collaborate and also collaborate long term. So add more fuel to the fire. Candace is so big, she looks like she's about to pop. She's pregnant. I'm not saying that in jest. I'm saying that because she's having a child. What is she going to need from Daily Wire? She's going to need time off. This is the perfect time for her to have a rift from Daily Wire and make it look like one. So that after she's done birthing the baby, nursing the baby, and is able to heal and come back to the limelight, all of the things with Tucker Carlson could be worked out. Or if she's going to another organization, could be worked out. Pure speculation here. I have no sources to back this up, but this is what you could be expecting. You have been told. She's the Rihanna of politics. Good girl, one bad. Yeah. Good girl, gone bad. Yeah. Yeah. She's definitely the Rihanna of the right. Kay said, we're seeing a slave trade with Candy O. Yeah, she's being traded. She's being traded to the America First team, which we'll have to see. We'll have to see how that bodes for the America First team. My thoughts are it'll be just distractionary content, right? They're not going to talk about the things that really matter. They'll hone in heavy on Christianity, matters. They'll hone in heavy on America First, matters. But they're not going to talk about what we're about to talk about on this show today. But before we get into that, I got something to show you. Now, people have asked me, Hotep Jesus, how is it that you don't get the numbers, but you get the platforms, right? My videos, they do, 2K max, right? If it's a short, maybe 10K, right? It's on Twitter. I might be lucky if I do 100K on a short on Twitter, right? Some of my tweets do fairly well. People ask me, well, how are you doing all of this? How come the numbers matter to the rest of us, but they don't matter to you, right? I'm going to show you exactly why here. Now, one of the reasons is because I'm fucking genuine. I'm a real person. The rest of these people are just fucking grifters. And you can't really make good content with grifters. You can see grifters make good content, but you can't make good content with grifters, right? Because they're only good within their editing bubble. They're only good within what they do. When you bring them into the unpredictable realm, like having an honest conversation, you find that they fall short of intellect. They fall short of knowledge, which makes just poor content. Whereas when you see people like Joe Rogan, Tim Pool, Alex Jones, when they see me, they don't see numbers. What they see is I can make good content with this guy because he can carry a conversation. So that's one half of the puzzle. I'm going to show the other half of the puzzle here. I'm not going to make any claims to be able to do anything in this video. Just want to put this on your desk to understand that there are forces operating outside of myself that I am somewhat in control of and somewhat not in control of. Let's hear what Amazon has to say.
Alexa, what is the CIA's Gateway Report?
From Sanitine.es. In 1983, the CIA published the Gateway Report, a mind-bending document about military research into astral projection, out-of-body experiences, and other dimensions.
Alexa, according to the CIA Gateway Report, what is the absolute?
From PopularMechanics.com. Much of the gateway theory rests on what McDonnell calls the absolute, an energy field that exists in all dimensions, has uniform energy throughout, and is infinite.
Alexa, according to the Gateway Report, what is the significance of a hologram?
A hologram is a three-dimensional optical simulation created by the diffraction of light, as described in the Gateway Report.
Alexa, what consciousness-altering methodologies did the Gateway process employ?
From Gumroad.com. What differentiates the gateway experience from other forms of meditation is its use of the hemi-sync techniques to induce an altered state of consciousness through audio by taking advantage of the brain's phenomenon known as frequency following response, FRR.
Alexa, what is Focus 12 in the gateway experience?
From intuitionmedicine.org. Focus 12 is the state of expanded awareness, where you can sense and feel that you are more than your physical body.
Alexa, how is the no time state described in the gateway experience?
From albawaba.com. He goes on to explain how the gateway experience can allow a person to transcend time and space if the brain's frequency reaches a certain level outside the normal range of perception, gaining access to dimensions of the universal hologram that are normally out of reach.
Good to know.
So basically what I'm saying is I'm reaching dimensions that nobody's able to reach. Okay. I mean, you're able to, you just don't know how to, right? You haven't been studied enough to be able to do this stuff. And I've spoken about this many times of how to do this. Many of you have done this on accident, but you have to be mindful of it. Okay. You got to be mindful of this stuff, right? And this is science. This isn't some woo woo. As you can see, the CIA was experimenting with this stuff, right? So this stuff is very real. And I'll tell you the secret. I'll tell you the secret right now. One of the secrets is the theta state, right? And I've discussed this before. Let's see if we can pull this up. Oh, I get so bored of having to rehash the same content sometimes, but we'll, okay, let's see. And then people just don't listen to me. I think that's the other thing. Anyway, let's bring it up. Well, you guys do. I can't see nobody listens to me. So here we have the states of the brain, right? And one of them is called the theta, right? So this is the one that gets induced either on purpose or by accident. So let's go to, where's theta? Where's the section on theta, you bitch? Okay, so they write, see, this is the shit I hate now. So you gave me see what I'm saying? Like, this is how they hide information from people. Because you see, they put a section here for gamma. They put a section here for beta, alpha, and delta. And then they say this: can you manipulate your theta brain? Can you tell us, can we get a section on the theta state? It says right here, we're still learning about how theta waves work and how they may be possible to boost your activity. Okay. They found that theta wave oscillations increase when participants are trying to move around in an unfamiliar environment. Right. So this is something that athletes practice. When Jordan talks about being in the zone, he's tapping into a theta wave state of sorts. Okay. You can do this in the dark. I practice this in the dark. When I practice this in the light, right? Like I practice in this New York City. I practice this in public areas. But basically, how my dad initiated this with me is when I walk into a room, I don't check out the room with my eyes and my ears, although I do that too. But I first feel the room vibrationally. Okay. And judge it from that point of view and then move accordingly, right? Sometimes we're around people when you go, I don't like the vibes I got from that guy. And these are all vibes, right? So I really want to go into another source here. So theta waves are strong internal focus, meditation, prayer, or spiritual awareness. This is a better definition here. This is from NHA Health. Neural Health Associates. It reflects the state between wakefulness, sleep, and relates to the subconscious mind. So it is abnormal in awake adults, but perfectly normal for children up to 13 years old. It is also normal during sleep. So I had this happen most recently during sleep. So I had this happen unintentionally. I was laying down in bed And I was in Miami. I was in a hotel room. I was falling asleep, and I'd fallen asleep right after doing some chess puzzles. And then in my sleep, I was actually able to, or in my theta wave of sleep, which is like in between. All right, so this theta state can happen either as you're falling asleep and as you're waking up. You're in this theta state. And if you can consciously catch yourself in a theta state, you can do some really cool things. So what I've told my group, I used to have a group that huddled with me in the past, is I've told them that you can do work in the theta state. So I'll do work in the theta state when I catch it. Okay. Now, children, as I said, are much easier to enter this state because they have this beautiful imaginative mind. But it's usually during waking up and going to sleep that this theta state takes place, and you can take advantage of it. It is also induced through meditation. So every single day I wake up, I work out, I meditate. I meditate before I work out, I meditate during my workout, and I meditate after my workout. And sometimes I meditate as I'm falling asleep, depending on how sleepy I am. But usually I do so much work in a day that I usually just pass right out when I hit the couch. Okay. So meditation, speaking of meditation, let's talk about prayer, right? So prayer is sometimes meditation, and meditation is sometimes prayer. Now, sometimes prayer is asking for something, and that's when people abuse prayer, when prayer really should be used for appreciation of existing things or people or relationships, etc., etc. It should be used for mindfulness and appreciation. This is the foundation of manifestation. This is the foundation of creating a happy life, and it's through prayer. The problem is people only pray when things are bad, and then they run to God and they want to pray and ask for stuff. That's just abuse. I call that abusive relationship. But sometimes when you pray, you're really meditating. Sometimes when you're meditating, you're really praying. It depends on, how you're operating. But when I pray, I like to pray for people outside of myself. And I might pray or I might meditate on the same exact thing. Depends on what I feel like doing at the time. Sometimes I pray. I don't meditate in the shower as much. I notice that I pray in the shower. So usually I pray in the shower as opposed to meditate. But prayer is still a form of meditation. But in meditation, this is where I affirm myself. This is where I control the electrical forces in my body. This is where I restore or regenerate energy from my workout. This is all practiced by Bruce Lee. He talks about this in one of his books. I think it was one of the introductory books to Jeet Kune Do. But this is all ancient stuff. But in meditation, not most recently, I don't really deal in manifestation because I've already created and meditated on what my manifestations will look like for the next 6 months, year, 5 years, and 10 years. So I don't have to do any more meditation manifestations. So all of my meditation now is exclusively for my physical body and my mental health. So people who do not tap into this stuff are at a huge disadvantage as compared to the rest of us. So people, again, coming back to where I started this from, people ask me, Hotep Jesus, how come you're able to do the things that you're able to do without having the numbers? And the truth of the matter is, I'm not operating on this plane. I am the one. I am Neo. I operate outside of the matrix. Some of y'all will get it sooner than later. Let's go to the next subject. Some of y'all get where I'm going. And there's actually a community of people. Specifically, I've spoken to some of the shamans on Twitter, and they're like, Hotep Jesus, we need you back in the spiritual world. Because I used to operate in the spiritual world on Twitter. I wasn't in politics Twitter. I wasn't until I had to warn people about Black Lives Matter. That's what pulled me over there. I was like, yo, Black Lives Matter, this is not it. But many of the shamans have said they want me to come back to talking like that. And many people want that type of content from me. When I'm ready, I will. I will be unrecognizable. When I hit the pinnacle of who I am, I'll be unrecognizable to you people right now. You're like, oh my God, he changed. He turned into some Osho spiritual guru. Yeah, I am going to transcend all of this shit and take you out of heights that you've never thought were imaginable or possible in due time. In due time. Much of this work will happen in Hotepistan. Once Hotepistan is established, I will then enter the guru phase of my life, at which we'll be practicing massive meditations and we'll be transforming the vibrational frequency of the planet, specifically the vibrational frequency of Hotepistan, where we'll be restoring people back to homeostasis and bringing people to a place of love. And yes, there will be some shroom gatherings as well. Yes, Block Chip. But again, get back to your prayer, get back to your meditations. Let's go back to the bag. Back to the 3D realm. So the shamans, what they don't understand about me is I understand this world better than most. I'm not at 100% understanding, but I told them, look, I have to talk to this physical stuff first. Then we'll get to the etheric stuff later. But it is very important for me to master this physical level first before I move to that next level. And I still have things to figure out on the physical level. Now they say, well, when you reach the spiritual level, you'll supersede that. And I say, yeah, this is true. Except I will not be able to explain it to the people who have not made it to the 5th dimension. People who are still stuck in the 3rd dimension, I need to be able to relate to them. And if I cannot tell them how the 3D world works, they will not believe me when I tell them how the 5D world works. Because the shamans don't understand the 3D world. They don't understand the importance of understanding the 3D world, but ora et labora, work and pray. All right. Let's go to more pressing matters, depending on how you want to look at it. Actually, let's pull this story up first. Also brought this up on Alex Jones. Let's go to it. Wells Fargo, Chase, Bank of America branches closing in October and November. Well, what do you know? Who been told you about this? So, just to save you the time, they're basically saying people are moving online. So you got the Wells Fargo list here, Pennsylvania. It's all published on MSN.com. Bank of America closing in October. They got Los Angeles, San Francisco, City National, Chase, First Citizens. Now, who's going to survive the great banking, resolution, or the great banking collapse? Bank of America is probably going to survive. Citi's probably going to survive. Chase is definitely going to survive. Not too sure about First Citizens. And Wells Fargo most likely is going to survive. So if you're going to do any banking, these are the people that are probably going to gobble up your bank. And you'll probably be banking with one of these guys if you're not already. Alternatives, obviously, are Federal Credit Union and DeFi, right? So now let's get to the big brain shit. It's time for the big brain shit. Shout out to Syscoin, my sponsor. If you want to talk big brain stuff, Telegram chat. The link is in the description box below. Mods will post it for you. But let's talk about this. Hold on. Let's pull this up on the screen. There we go. Got it there. Let's do this. Boom. So, IMF has published some papers. Okay. One of them is this. They published this yesterday. Central Bank Digital Currency Initial Considerations. Okay. IMF International Monetary Fund. This one's out of Washington, D.C. Okay. So I made my highlights. So we're going to go through the highlights. It's not many. Not many. All right. So we're going to jump right down here because, mostly because, I'm tired of talking about financial inclusion and all that stuff. But I was just looking for, some things that I'm currently interested in. And see, what they're talking about it, how they're talking about it, the terms that they're using. So one of the terms that they use is cryptoization. Right? So it says CBDC could make domestic currency more attractive and help safeguard monetary sovereignty by countering currency substitution and cryptoization. Now, cryptoization is also going to include stablecoins. We're going to talk about that in a second and talk about, their fears of cryptoization. Now, some people might think of cryptoization as Bitcoin or Syscoin as what they're concerned with. And I got to tell you, they're not. They're not concerned with Syscoin. They're not afraid of Syscoin. They're not afraid of Bitcoin because these things are not currencies. Not yet. Not yet, at least. They're not currencies. They could be used as currencies, but they're mostly, in the crypto world, they're mostly speculative assets, right? You buy them with the expectation that they increase in value. At the very least, you buy them to hedge against inflation. It's a more educated way to say that. I'm buying cryptocurrency to hedge against inflation. That's what's happening with stablecoins. Countries are dealing with hyperinflation. So instead of transacting in their currency, they're transacting in another country's currency. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. So remember, when they say cryptoization, they're specifically talking about stablecoins. It says jurisdictions wishing to reduce and avoid currency substitution could issue their own CBDC, right? Now it says right here, similarly, CBDC could help counter the use of crypto assets such as stablecoins. So this is what they're concerned with. Another country's stablecoin. Okay. Keep in mind, JP Morgan has JP coin, and they could be used in a foreign country for a wholesale. Potentially, maybe, not yet. Could be. But not at a retail level, we don't think. Definitely not operating like a true stable coin in a retail sense. Let's go to number 20 here. So number 20 of this IMF document says CBDC could bolster the role for the central bank. And that's really what this is about. This is about affirming the role of the central bank. This is probably central to what a CBDC is. Outside of the surveillance and all of that stuff, it is to affirm the role of the central bank, right? And then they mention here, diminished cash use, blah, blah, blah. That's small brain. Everybody knows about that. Let's go to the next highlights. Okay, 43. It says CBDC could affect countries' macroeconomic environment in 3 ways. Now, this is what I was really concerned with, right? The macroeconomics of things. I love to zoom out and look at things from God's perspective. So when I saw this section, I really, zoned in. CBDCs can increase competition for deposit funding, right? So this is when they say increase competition for deposit funding, basically, this is the elimination of your bank, right? Because if you're not depositing money at your bank because you get a better deal with the CBDC, you're going to do so, right? Which could increase bank share of wholesale funding and lower bank profits. They made it right here, lower bank profits, right? So they're warning about everything right in the paper. CBDC also has the potential to bolster financial inclusion. Of course, they're going to mention that, and thus increase the share of the population with access to interest-bearing instruments. So basically what that's saying is we can loan more people money. We can loan more people money. We can distribute the culture of usury to more of the population. So similarly, CBDC could also encourage a greater use of local currency instead of foreign denominated digital or crypto assets, right? So again, when they talk about countries who have a dying currency, like Peru, like Venezuela, like Brazil, what they're afraid is if you do not affirm your currency, you'll be dominated by a foreign denominated digital money or crypto assets such as a stablecoin. So this is a huge threat that they're concerned about. These are the macroeconomic effects. Let's go to number 46. It says the impact on CBDC monetary policy transmission will depend on design features. Okay. So it says here non-remuneration, basically saying, you can't buy goods and services with it. That's one way of limiting the CBDC's role. You might limit it to just taxes or something like that. or UBI, special features. Also, it mentions here CBDC holding. So basically, when they say limits on CBDC holding, if you have $1,000 in the account, right? What they could do is, I'm trying to see if it's in here. Okay, they don't. Wait, kinda. Okay, so here it says, moreover, an unremunerated CBDC could entrench the zero lower bound for interest rates as households and firms would prefer holding CBDC rather than negatively yielding bank deposits. Okay, no, so really what they're saying here is limits on holding is they could limit the holding, but they can also limit how long you hold. So if they say, look, it's got 30 days on this money, day 31, they start taxing it. So your CBDC money starts to slowly disappear, right? So they're going to burn it. That's the technical term. They'll do a burn on your money. They're typically like literally burning your money. And then transactions, right? Limiting what transactions you can make. Everybody knows about that. Let's go to 48. This is 48 here. The size of the central bank balance sheet could grow considerably. And it says because of that, there could be price impacts. And really what they're mentioning here is in 49, if a foreign CBDC were available domestically. This is a form of currency substitution. We've just covered that, right? So what they're saying is if the USD becomes quite popular in another nation, it could not only substitute their currency, but it's going to inflate the balance sheet for the Federal Reserve, which have a whole bunch of ramifications that I'm not going to get into because of time constraints. Basic Economics by Thomas Sowell would be a good place to start, where he talks about some of the roles and decisions made by the Federal Reserve and how they affect our economy. So, defer to your own economic background to try to speculate what could happen here when you inflate the balance sheet of a nation, of a central bank. But essentially, if I were to try to explain this, inflating the balance sheet in one way for that foreign nation puts them under a foreign power, a foreign financial power. Because if the money's programmable, now they got to play by our games. Also, that makes them a liability of the people backing that currency. So if Peru decides to make the USD their official currency, well, that debt note is covered by our ass. And every time they use that currency in a foreign nation, it's got to be backed by something, allegedly. But the way it currently works, it's treasury bonds are printed, and treasury bonds are backed by us. So when the balance sheet increases, our debt increases, and that's more for us to take on. It's just one way to look at it. Okay, there's many, many others, but it's just one. Mods, where my mods at? Super chat right here. Hold on. That's why Buddhism uses mantras instead of uses mantras that releases certain chemicals in the brain. Yeah, absolutely. So Familiar Human says, why not convert your CBDC to literally any other commodity to prevent it from auto devaluing? I'm glad you asked that question. Perfect timing. So that falls under something that the IMF calls capital flow management measures. Okay. And we talked about this before, where they were concerned with capital outflows. So let's see what they say here. So it says right here, number 54, implementing CFMs or capital flow management systems on foreign CBDC requires central banks to collaborate on practices and standards. So central banks collaborating. This is one world banking. Says in the case of foreign CBDC circulating domestically and absent collaboration between central banks, the domestic central bank may need to resort to alternative policies to implement CFMs, such as banning access to foreign CBDC wallets and related applications.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
There it is. There it is. The money's programmable. The money's programmable. Okay? So this is where they're going to divide the earth. The earth is being divided. Is there anything biblical about the earth being divided that somebody can invoke to make this conversation have another dimension? They're dividing the earth. So when we talked about wholesale CBDC, we use this term interoperability. And that's basically the ability of one bank to communicate with another as far as these transactions are concerned. Okay. Do you think all banks will be interoperable with each other? Absolutely not. Do you think your CBD is going to be your USD, your digital USD is going to be compatible with the digital yuan? Do you think that's going to be possible? No. Do you think it's going to be compatible with the ruble? Absolutely not. That transaction will die. It will come back failed. Cannot process transaction. Just as sometimes when you send, a cryptocurrency to an invalid address, like I did last night. I was doing some DeFi stuff, and I sent the stuff to a bad address, but it was a test transaction. Shout out to all my DeFi degens. It just comes back invalid. It just kicks it back. So that's why that won't be possible. You will not be able to convert it. It says one of the candidates of the Argentina presidency said he wanted to switch the country's currency to the U.S. dollar. That's correct. Yeah, we covered that a few weeks ago. That is correct. That is absolutely true. They want to use the USD. I think that's all the highlights. Oh, no, wait. Is there any more? It's just one more highlight here. 63, CBDC should be designed to address the barriers of financial inclusion that exist in the country in question. So I highlighted this because it says here, tiered wallets. Tiered wallets. Let's highlight this. Tiered wallet. So what is a tiered wallet? What is a tiered wallet system? It's kind of self-explanatory, right? Have different tiers, different access to different privileges based upon your social credit system or some other system. And it says tiered wallets, it says right here, with lower limits on CBDC holdings and transactions could also allow identification requirements for certain low risk and financially excluded populations to be relaxed. Now, some of you may not be following here. I know we lost many people because we've gotten too big brain with the talk, but we only want the big brain people here. We only want the intellectual people here. The hoi polloi, well, they'll be subjugated regardless. Everybody here is going to escape the coming matrix. We're going to escape the coming matrix. We are always going to find these loopholes because we are at the cusp of watching it roll out. So stick around so you know the loopholes to dodge the CBD system and use it to your advantage and not to your disadvantage. So it mentions tiered wallets, right? To allow what? Some of you are like, why did he press the button on that? Well, it says allow identification requirements for certain low risk and financially excluded populations to be relaxed. So basically saying for some populations, we won't need an ID. We won't need ID requirements. Why won't you need ID requirements? Why won't they need them? Because they have everything they need in your digital wallet. Your digital wallet and the digital ID are one and the same. I just showed you that in another article from the EU. Your digital wallet and a digital ID are one and the same. One and the same. So where the poor might not have access to identification, well, if they got that digital wallet, it's pretty much the same thing. It's going to work just the same. Okay. Let's go to the next update, and then we're going to open up the phone lines. If you want to get on the phone lines, text Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631. 202-596-5631. Text Hotep in your name to that number to get in line. Don't cut the line. Please don't cut the line. Let's go back. Let's pull this up. Interesting stuff, happened today while everybody was distracted. So I'm going to show you. Matter of fact, I should show you live. I can probably show you live. Hold on. Let me go to YouTube and see if they're still in session. Okay. So look at this. Wait, why is it not on your screen? Oh, you see here right now, hearing entitled Crypto Crime and Context, Breaking Down Illicit Activity and Digital Assets. So all the distractions about Usher being gay and whatever else the people are talking about, Ben Shapiro and them, having issues, having a little quarrel. You have this hearing happening right now. Hold on. Let me see something. And this one just ended. Okay. So you had the Financial Services Committee was earlier today. Now this one, they were talking about, I'll show you. For people new here, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. You're now tuned into the channel that talks about what nobody's talking about. That's what we do. We talk about the shit nobody's talking about. So Basel III Endgame. Now, I've mentioned Basel III Endgame on the channel before. Basically, this is raising capital requirements for banking institutions. Obviously, could harm the farmers, middle and lower class. Because, again, this is so... All this stuff ties into CBDC because they're putting a huge strain on banking institutions. Huge strain on banking institutions. So on one end, the CBDC could potentially put strains on them. But with the Basel III, it's putting another strain on banking institutions, and they had a hearing on that today. Not to mention the FCC had a hearing today. So while I was listening to the hearing earlier, as much as I could, I heard a gentleman, say that the bill, the Basel III bill, is over 1,000 pages, but only 20 pages cover economics. During the hearing, when I was listening to it, they were talking about tax credits. There's this thing that they snuck in there in regards to tax equity and tax credits. They snuck something else in there about the environment, and those tax credits were tied to environmental stuff.
Chain transaction.
No, the Tether transactions would be on chain.
Mr. Menez, would you like to comment on that?
It depends on the type of transaction, whether it happened within an exchange or not. I'm not familiar with that exact fact pattern, but many Terra Finance fundings have happened within exchanges. I don't know the details of that exact example, but both have happened on-chain, Terra financing and Terra financing within exchanges.
Okay, does anybody know how much Tether is in circulation?
Approximately 86 billion.
How do you know that number? Tether doesn't report it.
Yeah, they do. You can look on the blockchain of every tether that's ever been issued.
Yeah, it's public information.
I'm happy to provide a briefing and show
you.
See,
the politicians don't know shit either.
We'll follow up on that.
That's public information, bro. Oh my fucking God.
In October, as we've mentioned, Wall Street Journal reported that Hamas received $41 million in crypto. There was another $93 million. I want to just focus on the 41 that Hamas received. November 12th, Wall Street Journal followed up with a second report. They said that a significant portion of the funds received by Gazan exchanges were from Hamas. Since 2020, crypto has been an essential part of Hamas's operational activity. And there's a lot more quotes. I'd encourage everybody to read it. But they note at the end, to obscure the money trail, these exchanges changed the wallet addresses they used each day and sent funds through mixers. Ms. Jimenez, from your research, can you explain to the committee how terrorist organizations use cryptocurrency mixers and other anonymizing technologies for illicit financial activities?
I just showed you right there the circulating supply
Yes,
of
thank
USDT.
you. As we discussed,
87
there's
billion.
some insight via blockchain analytics for that portion. So methods that they try to use to hide their illicit activity would be, there's actually some blockchains that have less
So this is the shit I would be
There's,
sitting down watching
mixers
if I
that
wasn't
pull
here with y'all.
together transactions from many different parties and then
Nobody's
split them out
covering
in
this.
different amounts, so you may not
There's
be able
nobody
to tell
covering this. There's nobody talking
which
about
funds
this.
went in, went to which receiving wallets on the other end. But there's many different methods they can use, and a very easy one is just to go off chain entirely.
I'm going to
But,
watch about 5 minutes of this, and then we'll
I want to
continue
push
with the
back
show.
on the
I just want
myth
to see what's
that
going
all
on.
crypto transactions are reported on the blockchain. That's just not true. It's, there's different research that you can cite, but the number I cited in my written testimony was, I believe, about only 10% is on the blockchain. So all this talk about blockchain analytics, it's very limited. It's helpful, and I applaud the effort, and they've had successes, but it does not give a full picture of what's happening in the cryptocurrency crime space.
Well, I'd echo that point, and I want to just say I think there are a lot of interesting things being shared in this conversation about why the blockchain is traceable, and we can talk about how it gets decrypted. But to your point, that's sort of like saying you can't get fat from eating because non-fat foods exist. There's a rich conversation that goes way beyond the blockchain, and if I'm a bad guy, it's easy to get.
FBI did a study on blockchain and said less than 1% of blockchain transactions are actually used for illegal activity.
Thank you, Chairman Hill and Ranking Member Lynch. On October 7th, Iranian-backed Hamas terrorists killed more Jews on one day than any single day since the Holocaust.
And he's going to shoehorn this
atrocity
into
is a
the
tragic
crypto.
testament to the relentless threats Israel and its people endure.
Now, these people
As a
make
nation, we must stand
transactions
firmly
with
with
crypto.
Israel, our unwavering ally, in these incredibly difficult times, and we must support Israel's right to defend itself against such terror and work diligently to dismantle the financial arteries that enable and embolden terrorist organizations like Hamas. Defeating Hamas is also vital for the safety and well-being of the Palestinian citizens and the civilians in Palestine. The actions of Hamas call for a decisive response, and I'm glad that our committee successfully marked up bipartisan bills yesterday to address Iran's financing of terrorist acts against Israel. According to Treasury's terrorist financing risk assessment, the vast majority of terrorist funds still move through banks and money transmitters or are in cash. When they do use digital assets, Hamas and other terrorist groups disproportionately rely on unregulated offshore digital assets like Tether and Binance that have next to no compliance controls. It doesn't seem appropriate to me that these unregulated bad actors can provide US dollars to a terrorist organization. Mr. Levin, how can the U.S. ensure overseas actors effectively enforce its regulations, and how can Congress bolster the jurisdiction of U.S. enforcement agencies, allowing them to extend their reach internationally?
Thank you so much, Congressman, for the question. The examples that you cite are relevant for the regulatory regime that we put in place. But just to address the quick tactical disruption efforts that are ongoing, actually, Binance and Tether have both taken action under the direction of the Department of Justice to freeze funds that are associated to Hamas terrorist financing campaigns and the affiliates and network of facilitators that Hamas has relied on. And so what I encourage is that we need to continue to foster international collaboration on a tactical, operational level to make sure that we can fund a lot by a better regulatory regime domestically that would allow for example, stablecoin issuers to be able to have federal oversight at a regulator in the United States. And there would be a better regime of how you can actually foster this type of collaboration between public and private that is necessary for that disruption.
So I'm going to let that run in the background. I'm going to finish the CBDC update. Shout out to Syscoin. And we'll come back to that hearing. Maybe. Hold on. Here we go. All right. So not only the IMF published that other paper I showed you, but they published this thing called a virtual handbook. Okay. Which is actually not a handbook at all. It's a really lazy way of compiling their previous papers, because when you come in here and they show you, so here you see it says how should countries explore CBDCs? You hit the button and it takes you to a paper published in September 8th, right? So I remember talking about, this handbook that was supposed to be released, and it's just a compilation of the different papers previously published. And I've written most of the material in here already. But interesting enough, when you look at the screen, it says right here, could a CBDC help promote financial inclusion? And look what it shows. Whose hands are those? It's the black man's hands. It's the black man and woman right there. So when they talk about financial inclusion, they even show you a picture of who they're talking about. It's right there. It's right there. We're going to be their test market. We are their test market between Bahamas, Nigeria, and Jamaica. We've been their test market. Bahamas first, Nigeria second, Jamaica third. In that order. We've already talked about what the CBDC has brought to Nigeria. Nothing but harm, calamity, and chaos. Right? Let's go back. So they published that so-called paper. Also, Human Rights Foundation. I've seen this before. I guess they issued another press release today. So there's a CBDC tracker. You can hit the CBDC tracker, go to the website, and you can do this thing here and see who's doing what. And it shows you the CBDCs, right? Color coded. So you see here it says no activity, and it says the green is where it's being researched. And then the next level is pilot. And then the last level you see on the screen there is launched, right? So when we look at the globe, let's look at the globe and let's look for that brown and red. So you see red, you see down here, Bahamas, right? See that? And you see the island of Jamaica, red, and then the Virgin Islands right here. Dominica and all of that, right? All right, so let's go over here. And you see red, Nigeria, right? Let's go over here. Red, Russia. Already implemented this. Who is this? Lithuania. Oh, that's part of Russia? Okay, that little spit of a country is part of Russia. Okay. China, obviously. India definitely has CBDC. Who is this? Thailand, yes. Thailand, Cambodia all have CBDC. Taiwan in pilot. Philippines in pilot. Malaysia in pilot. Japan in pilot. South Korea in pilot. So they have a nice little CBDC tracker here. And then you can hit it and you can get more information. Really interesting tool. It's actually a lot better when I first saw this. But if you guys ever want to just, play around and look at CBDCs, it's cbdctracker.hrf.org/home. And you can come in and play with the CBDC tracker. So pretty cool tool. You want to put on your desk right there. Okay, that covers everything. Let's go to the phone lines. Text Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631. Hotep in your name to 202-596-5631. And we'll take calls. Hold on.